This is the Black Powder Podcast, coming at you live and direct. Your salty tears season my life. It's the Black Powder Podcast. Thank you. And once again, it's on. This is the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast that has ever existed in the history of libertarianism. I am your host, Marcus Matthews, the only real libertarian, chairman of the Wu-Tang Clan Libertarian Caucus. And as usual, I'm joined by my brother in arms and liberty, Eric Parker, Bold Liberty, out of the great state of North Carolina. How you doing today, sir?
Good to go, my brother.
Thank you for having. So we've been going back and forth this week because I believe the Glock 30 is the best CCW pistol out there, combined with the fact it has won 2 world wars.
And I had to correct Marcus twice that that gun didn't exist for those first 2 world wars. But I did tell him it might help us win this third one.
Well, those are just I bring alternative facts, and you know, a lot of people
that checks out.
Yeah. Hey,
I thought you were like confused when you were making the, and I understand you were being facetious when you said it on social media, but I wanted to make sure you weren't specifically just talking about the 45 round. So for those that don't know, the Glock 30, correct? It's 45 ACP. The stock magazine holds 10 rounds, right?
Yes.
All right. So, but just so y'all know, for the record, this show back in its when it started, Marcus was just a lonely black guy in his garage, and he was really into guns. And you started a podcast about guns, right? That's how this got started.
Effectively, guns and liberty, but then it kind of just gravitated more so about the liberty part. But we're still about that 2A stuff.
Yeah,
and
we keep that thing on us. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm going to stand by my statement that the Glock 30 won 2 world wars. And nobody can dispute my alternative facts because that's our society now. You can say whatever you want. And
so
that's
Marcus is going to stand by his false statement, okay?
At any rate.
Even though Google, the Wayback Machine is right there on the same computer he's filming this podcast with. But I digress. Go ahead.
At any rate, here on the Black Powder Podcast, we like to bring forth the best libertarian content possible, and I think we do a great job. We want to shout out our guy Joe Hanush for booking us very, very solid guests, and we have another one tonight. I'm kind of excited about this one because this man is not only is he a doctor, he is also an attorney, and most impressively, he's an elected libertarian. So, while I click these buttons over here, without further ado, today's guest is Dr. Thomas. You know what? I didn't even ask you how to pronounce your last name correctly. I'm not good with that. So, that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pronounced Laehn, like Lane.
Okay, I got that.
Laehn.
Dr.
That's
Thomas
easy.
Laehn from the great state
down.
of Iowa.
Laehn.
Yeah. How you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
So for those of us that don't know, where's Iowa on the map? I looked over there as if there's a map right there, but you're like north central United States.
North central. Yeah, we're just west of Illinois.
Gotcha. Tracking, that's up there. So I'm in North Carolina. Marcus is in California.
The fourth largest economy in the world.
Yeah. I feel like Iowa could be, and I'm not trying to make fun of the state of Iowa, but it could almost be like the fourth smallest economy. I don't know though. I could be wrong.
Oh, they're huge in pork and agriculture.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Marcus will be happy to know this. There's only 2 states that produce more food than they consume, and that's Iowa and California.
See,
Huh.
great people live in those. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome. That's good to know. So Dr. Laehn, real quick, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about yourself, your background. I know backstage you're kind of talking about you were a professor at university, but you've been practicing law for 10 years. If you want, try and just introduce to you here briefly, and then we'll get into your background, becoming a libertarian, if you want to throw that in there, if that happened in between career changes or way before you ever finished school, feel free.
Yeah, thank you. And please, you're welcome to call me Thomas. So I grew up in a little town called Allison, Iowa. Did my undergrad at Drake University in Des Moines, and then I left the state, got a master's and PhD in political science at Louisiana State University down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I had a 1-year stint as a visiting research fellow at Hebrew University in Jerusalem before I came back to the States, and I was a university professor. I taught political science, specifically American government, political philosophy, and constitutional law at a little public university called McNeese State University down in Lake Charles, Louisiana. But I wanted to come back up to Iowa. I knew someday I'd want to get married and start a family. And I wanted my kids to grow up in a small town in Iowa, that's similar to the way I grew up. I also moved back to Iowa, went to law school at the University of Iowa. About the time I was finishing law school, I got married. My wife and I moved to Jefferson, Iowa, where I ran for district attorney. As a libertarian, right out of law school, I had about a year as an assistant prosecutor, but during that time I was preparing my campaign. And then I won the office of district attorney in Greene County, Iowa, becoming the first libertarian to hold an elective partisan office in the state. And then 4 years later, I was reelected. So I'm now approaching the end of my second term as district attorney. And I've announced I'm running for the United States Senate for the state of Iowa.
So,
That's awesome.
that's a pretty epic resume right there. Even if you just did away with, the political wins, which us libertarians aren't very used to, still a very impressive resume. I have one question before we move forward. Is the district attorney position, are there term limits? It's essentially you're in your second 4-year term. Are you able to run for re-election of that if by chance you don't win the Iowa U.S. Senate race?
That's a great question. There's nothing that would legally prohibit me from running as county attorney for a third term. There's no limit. However, a person can only have his or her name on the ballot for one office. So because I'm running for the United States Senate in November, I cannot run for district attorney.
Okay, so you're essentially applying a self-term limit. You're term limiting yourself in a sense. Doesn't mean you can't go back and try again later. If after you've been in the United States Senate for, 10, 20 years, you could always go back, right?
I could, yes.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. So why libertarian?
Great question. So I couldn't in good conscience, when I wanted to run for county attorney, district attorney, we call district attorneys county attorneys in Iowa. When I wanted to run for county attorney, I just couldn't in good conscience run as a Republican or a Democrat. I think both parties have been equally complicit in the corruption of our constitutional system. Both parties have participated in the increase in our national debt, allowing presidents to take us to war without declarations of war from Congress. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I just couldn't in good conscience run as one of the two major parties. Greene County, where I serve, is overwhelmingly Republican. A lot of people who meant well and wished me well told me, well, just run as a Republican. It doesn't matter. You'll get elected. And I couldn't do that. I'm a libertarian ultimately because I believe the libertarians are right on what the Constitution says and what it means. You know, I believe ultimately in the rule of law. I believe in Republican government, small r, not the party, but the republic. Checks and balances, limited government, equality before the law, all of these principles that took us thousands of years to figure out and to put into practice and to institutionalize it. And the Republicans and Democrats are willing to sacrifice all of it for the sake of reelection.
Awesome. I love it. I love this energy. And I really love bringing, because I think of myself as a constitutional libertarian or constitutional minarchist or minarchist libertarian, like very limited government and like the vision that our founding fathers had and self-regulation, self-government, and as limited a government as possible. So I love that. I want to ask this: how, when you ran for district attorney, how close was there a Republican or Democrat opponent? How close was the election? If you could get into that a little bit.
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. When I first ran, I came out strong and I came out early, and I earned the support early on of many of the leading elected officials in the county, almost all of whom were Republican. But I secured their support, and as a result, the Republican Party threatened to run a candidate against me. But I think ultimately they realized they would lose. And so they actually never even ran anyone against me.
Wow.
But it took a lot of work to get to. If I didn't come out early and gain those endorsements early on, the party label, someone running as a Republican would have been the clear front runner in the race. But no, it was uncontested.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that strategy of, I'm assuming you were working and living in the community for a little while, at least being from Iowa, having roots there, getting those endorsements early on. I'm trying to just say, like, that strategy of showing the establishment, like, hey, you can run a candidate if you want to, but they're going to lose. Like, how did that go? Were a lot of these endorsements people you knew outside of politics, even though they were in office, or was it because of your experience in the community being close to the political system?
Yeah, so I'm actually in a county that's not the county I grew up in as a kid. So when I moved here, to be an assistant prosecutor. The people didn't really know me, but I think I quickly developed a reputation as someone who was very competent and skillful in the courtroom, who managed my caseload, who gave good advice to the other elected officials in the county. I took on a lot of responsibility. A lot of the work in my office had been outsourced. So in addition to paying a government official, the county was also paying outside attorneys, privately retained attorneys, to do a lot of the legal work for the county, which I thought was a tremendous waste of taxpayer dollars. So I brought all of that in-house. Even as an assistant prosecutor, I started doing a lot of the civil work for the county, drafting their deeds, their ordinances, their resolutions. And so I think I proved my worth. And it was really the support of the other Republican elected officials in the county that I think kind of paved my way to election. So yeah, I think that it wasn't that I really knew anyone, but I think that I proved myself both to the other elected officials and to the electorate.
So Marcus, let me know if you have anything, or if you want me to keep going. I don't want to keep commandeering the mic.
No, it's all good. I just wanted to interject one fact. I've never met a jerk from Iowa. I've met a lot of people from Iowa, and every single one of them, I was like, damn, guy, I just want to give them a hug because they're just they're just cool people.
Marcus, did you go to Iowa during like your son's baseball? Or?
That was Wisconsin. And
Wisconsin. Okay,
they were some extremely nice people too. But, a lot of people from Iowa actually moved to California, or their parents are from Iowa, because, going all the way back to the Great Western Migration during the Dust Bowl and all that stuff, there was a lot of people You know, it was mainly Oklahoma, but it was those Midwestern people that came out here, and a lot of people you meet out here, their roots are in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So I'm still curious how you became a libertarian. Was there a specific person, or it was just your observation of the duopoly?
Yeah, so it really started with the war in Iraq.
Okay.
You know, so when I first registered to vote, I registered as a Republican.
Me too.
And when George W. Bush took us to war in Iraq, I realized that there was such a great disparity or disconnect between what the Republican Party said it stood for and then what it actually did in practice. And this idea of nation building and that we could transplant democratic values and our institutions on foreign soil was totally unconservative. And the whole idea of conservatism is that, you know, that things have to kind of occur naturally, organically over time, and you can't just impose things and can't use government to effect change. It has to kind of occur naturally through free markets or you know, through traditions and custom. And then the more I thought about things and thought about our Constitution, I realized that neither party, neither the Republicans nor the Democrats, really cared about the Constitution. They only cared about it when it was convenient, when they wanted to check the other side. But they didn't actually sincerely hold a commitment to the text. And that was really, I think the war in Iraq was really a turning point for me. But it wasn't until I moved back to Iowa, which would have been about 10, 12 years ago, that I switched my party affiliation from Republican to Libertarian.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people have similar stories that gravitate towards the Libertarian because, you know, for its flaws, which seem to be many at times, it is truly the only party that looks to follow the Constitution and actually wants. I do not feel we should see the federal government in our lives on the news or anything every single day. And right now, that's what's happening every single day. And it's never for good reasons. You know, the fact that they passed a bill to put in kill switches on every single vehicle, and it was mainly the Democrats, but they needed enough Republicans for them to pass it. I don't understand why Americans are so unwilling to give a legitimate libertarian a chance. And I say legitimate libertarian because we're talking to one tonight. So what is your message going to be to Iowans when you stand up on that debate stage and tell them why they should send you to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, great. I'm going to make one quick comment, then I'll answer your question. I agree with you about the federal government shouldn't be in the news, shouldn't have so much power, shouldn't be so intrusive. I always say that my life should only intersect with the federal government on two occasions: when I'm trying to cross the border to get into the country and when I go to the post office. Otherwise, the federal government should stay out of my life. You know, my message to Iowans is right now, Gallup polls are showing that 62% of Americans would prefer to vote for a third party, right? So we are the majority. Disaffected Republicans, disaffected Democrats, independents, libertarians, we are the majority. But the two parties are colluding and are working together to propagate this false message that we only have two options on election day. And it's not that people are voting for someone, they're voting against someone. People didn't vote for Donald Trump because they liked Donald Trump. They voted for Donald Trump because they wanted to stop Kamala Harris. And I've never met anyone who supported Kamala Harris, but they voted for her because they wanted to stop Donald Trump. Everyone's voting for the lesser of two perceived evils. But as long as we keep doing that, we're perpetuating an evil system.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And I will add to that, people voted for Donald Trump because damn near everybody in America hates Hillary Clinton. If you have half a brain, you know that she'd have been the worst possible president that we've ever had, surpassing, forgive me, my Republican friends, surpassing Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton would have been worse than Joe Biden. 100%. You can clock that.
Well, and like I'll say, like, things have only gotten worse after people didn't learn their lesson the first time. Like we had 4 years of national debt higher than anyone before them. An example from DC, and people chose to reelect that again. We had an example. We still, I don't know.
Well, yeah, you do know, because people, I'm sorry, Dr. Laehn, we're going to get to you in a minute, but we got to go on our little
we got to rant.
tangent. Yeah. But people forget when the lockdowns started.
Yeah.
And that's what I always say. It's a government precedent. You gave the government the power to lock down this country, and then you hand it over to people who just love absolute power. And what did they do with the lockdowns and the mandates and all of that stuff? They blew it out of the water. And I think that's a great transition, because a lot of your media was, Dr. Laehn, was against the mandates and vaccines and all of that stuff. And you said you weren't going to enforce any of those laws. Yes. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I was the only county attorney in the state of Iowa that said we would not enforce those laws in my county. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was obviously unconstitutional. And you know, I said we weren't going to do it. And, you know, the federal government, OSHA, under Biden's vaccine mandate, claimed that they had the authority to fine any employer who had more than 100 employees, and a huge amount of money, more than $100,000 a week, if you didn't enforce this vaccine mandate. And you know, most employers, you know, small businesses in Iowa, you fine them $100,000 a week, it's not going to be long before they're bankrupt. And so the federal government was saying, either you inject something into your body, or we're going to take away your livelihood. And that's unprecedented in American history. And I came out very strongly against it. And it's really interesting, because everyone else reads things through this partisan lens, because, you know, these Democrats then accused me of being a closet Republican. Well, now when I'm speaking out against what the federal government's doing in Minnesota, and you know, going into homes without judicially approved warrants and all of this, and now the Republicans are accusing me of being a closet Democrat, and everyone's just assuming that partisanship is everyone's first loyalty, and it's not. My first loyalty is the Constitution.
That's awesome. I love that energy. I love it. Oh man.
All right, so next up, you saw what this man is about right now, and those are strong libertarian principles, strong American constitutional principles, and therefore we need to show strong support for somebody who's going to go to Washington, D.C. and actually represent you and I. So I have posted the link to his campaign page /donate. So whatever you got, $5, $10, $15, $20, $25, whatever you can donate to this man, please do so, because it's very important that we get men like this who believe in your constitutional rights in the face of is basically tyranny at this point from the duopoly. This is where we can put our money where our memes are, and we could get people like this going in the right direction. Just chip in. So
yeah. And yeah. I want to add to that and kind of use that as a good segue. Like, I'm sure it's difficult for you to maybe run the numbers, because you did such a good job of getting out there early and winning district attorney. I'm guessing twice unopposed. But does that speak volumes to hopefully your name recognition and popularity in the local election? Like, are you gonna win your county in Iowa, and how many votes is that going to get you? I don't know if you want to discuss strategy. I'd love to have this conversation. If you won't do it here live, where your opponents could pick out your strategy, I just want to know, how much money do we need to raise you tonight? How many votes per dollar or cent? You know what I mean? What are you looking at here? Because you worked hard and you strategized to the point where you didn't have to be on the ballot against a Republican or Democrat yet. And what's the makeup of your election look like? Is there a Republican? Is there going to be a Democrat? Are they prior office holders? Do they got name recognition? Do they have endorsements? How can we get you endorsements? Would they help you? All that. Let's go.
Yeah, no, those are all great questions. So the first task is just to get on the ballot. The Iowa legislature has made it almost impossible for a third-party candidate to even get on the ballot. So I need to collect signatures across the state, thousands of signatures, just to have the opportunity to be on the ballot in November. But fundraising is also critical to all of that. It is going to be a contested race. The heir apparent on the Republican side is Ashley Hinson. She's currently a representative in the United States House of Representatives. She has been handpicked by the party elite. When she announced, she already had, $5 million in the bank, major endorsements from all the establishment Republicans. And that's really it's a telling thing that I think we need to realize that we're not electing our elected officials. They are being selected for us beforehand. She was clearly handpicked by the Republican leadership. And if we have time before we end tonight, I'll talk about a pipeline that's coming through and all the money that's being used to take people's land, use eminent domain. And the Republican Party is deeply involved in all of that. And of course, they picked a candidate who's in favor of the tax credits that's funding the whole boondoggle. On the Democratic side, there's a couple state legislators who are lesser known, who are vying for the Democratic nomination. So there will be a Republican, there will be a Democrat, and there will be a Libertarian. The money is crucial. Part of it's because the media uses fundraising as a proxy for credibility. I've been raising money. I've been quite successful. But the Des Moines Register, the major newspaper in the state, had a front page story comparing the amount of money I had raised versus the Republican versus the Democrats. And so that money is just about really about credibility in addition to funding the campaign. So any money your listeners can give, I'm hoping over the course of the next few weeks, we've just launched a fundraising campaign with the goal of raising $40,000 in the next few weeks. So anything your listeners can do to contribute to that, the maximum amount under federal law anyone's allowed to give is $3,500. But if someone can give $5, $10, $20, I have a lot of donors right now who have committed to giving $10 a week or $10 a month. Because that's all they can afford. And those are the donations that matter most to me, because all the wealthy donors with super PACs and dark money that are funding the Republicans and the Democrats, I want to show that the people still hold the power. The people can give $10 a week or $10 a month, and we can match dollar for dollar everything the billionaires can do who are corrupting our political system.
I love it. Awesome. Do you have an idea, I guess, of what hypothetically the split would be in a U.S. Senate race? Have you looked up historically? Has a Libertarian ran for U.S. Senate in Iowa recently? Anything to compare it to?
Yeah, we have fielded candidates before for statewide offices. Traditionally, they've only received maybe 2, 3, 4% of the vote. But I think because I'm a credible candidate, not that the other ones weren't credible, but I'm the first one to have held elective office. And I think the people of Iowa are ready for a credible alternative. I think the time is right. I think I'm that candidate. And it's just a matter of getting my name out there and being treated seriously by the media. And then I can win. When we had the Iowa caucuses, the message that came out was that Trump overwhelmingly won the Iowa caucuses, that we're a ruby red state. But then you look at the numbers, only 11% of Iowans participated in the caucuses. Of those 11%, like 7% went to the Republican caucuses and 4% went to the Democratic caucuses. And then now we're talking 7% of the population at the Republican caucus, and Trump won like 80% of the vote. But that means really only like 5 or 6% of Iowans have drunk the Kool-Aid and went to the caucuses to vote for Donald Trump. And the vast majority of the electorate is alienated and disenfranchised. And we just need to show them that they're the majority. And if they go in the voting booth and vote their conscience on election day, I will win.
Yeah. And I think that message is important and get in front of the people. And Marcus, if you'll put his link back up there, I noticed whenever I was running for office, even though I didn't win, that whenever I could tell people like, hey, I need to raise this much money and it's for yard signs or a billboard or t-shirts, like that helped me gain a little bit of money. So if you could tell our listeners what this money bomb, let's say you're doing a 2-week money bomb, you need $40,000 in 2 weeks. What all is that going to go to help people pay for your campaign, and how is that going to help?
Yeah, that's great. So what I've been doing, and is a very costly undertaking, is I'm having candidate meet and greet events, but I'm sending invitations to every independent or voter in the county I'm visiting. And that's a tremendously effective way. Even if they don't come to the meet and greet event, they're getting some information about me, what I stand for, learning about me, learning there's a credible alternative. And then some of the people come up and we get to meet in person, and that helps the money kind of mushroom and grow. So that would be, the money we're raising now would be used to coordinate these meet and greet events, send invitations to all the local independents to help people meet one another and realize how many of us there are. I'm also trying to grow my campaign staff. Right now, I have only one paid employee. I have a whole team of volunteers. I need to get additional people, paid staffers on my campaign to get that infrastructure in place. Because if I can get my name out there, I will win. It's just a matter now of making sure the people of Iowa get a chance to meet me.
So any of these positions do you need to fill volunteer and paid? Do they need to be in the state of Iowa? Any of them could do remote work if it's really important, or do they need to be in Iowa?
No, people could do remote work. Absolutely. I'll need people, feet on the ground, boots on the ground here in Iowa. But anyone who wants to chip in wherever they are in the world, I'd be grateful for their help.
Marcus, if you could put his link up just to his page, not the donate link. Anyone go there. If you're hearing this message and you think, hey, I'm great with social media marketing, I'll lick stamps and send mailers. I'll send emails. I'll do text baking or phone calling when it's time. And I'm sure he's got a volunteer link at that right there. Go click there, click the volunteer link, and send him a message. Say, hey, even if you're not in Iowa, hey, I'm not in Iowa, but I'd love to help. So don't miss this opportunity. I think this is a serious candidate, serious campaign. We got and I don't know if you want to put up Tubbs' comment, just getting on what office had he previously won. For those just tuning in, this is Dr. Thomas Laehn. He is currently what they call the county attorney in, I think you said Greene County, Iowa.
Yes, sir.
That's the same as a district attorney somewhere else, because I guess districts could cover more than one county, depending on where you live. So,
yeah.
But
all right.
Yeah.
So I'm a reluctant Iowan voter that is sick of the Democrats and Republicans. How do you sell me on voting for you? What are you going to do in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, great question. So I'll say a little bit about this pipeline that's being built in Iowa that really shows how corrupt our political system has become and how the two parties have corrupted it. In the IRS tax code, there's sections 45Q and 45Z, which say that if you capture carbon dioxide that would otherwise be released into the environment, into the atmosphere, the federal government will now pay you $85 per metric ton of carbon dioxide you capture. So a major Republican donor here in the state of Iowa, his name is Bruce Rastetter, conceived of this plan that he would capture the carbon dioxide that's being emitted from our state's ethanol plants. He would liquefy it under immense pressure and then pipe it across the state through South Dakota into North Dakota, where he would sequester it underground, bury it underground. They call it sequestration. And he stands to make billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars in federal taxpayer dollars that will be direct deposited into his company's checking account. But in order to make this scheme work, they have to build this pipeline. And so the state of Iowa has vested his company with the power of eminent domain to take people's land from them, unwilling landowners, along the proposed route to pipe this liquefied carbon dioxide to North Dakota to sequester it. And the amazing thing is that they've done public opinion polling, and the vast majority of Iowans, I believe it's 78%, but well north of a super majority of Iowans are opposed to the use of eminent domain for this project. There's never been a clearer example of an issue where you can test whether our elected officials side with the people or with moneyed interests. And it's fascinating. Even the environmentalist groups are against this pipeline because it will do more damage to the environment building the pipeline than it will do good capturing and sequestering this carbon dioxide. So as a project that its end result will be contrary to the very purpose for which it was conceived. Mm-hmm. The only purpose of this project in actuality is to make donors to Republican elected officials wealthier so they can give more money to the elected officials. I drafted a bill last year in our state legislature that would have stopped this project. Other things got added to it, but the key provision that would have prohibited the use of eminent domain for the construction of carbon dioxide pipelines on agricultural land, I wrote that language, and our governor vetoed the bill.
Wow.
Even though 78% of Iowans supported the bill, our governor vetoed it. Our governor, who has received $172,000 in campaign donations from Bruce Rastetter. So this is the biggest boondoggle in the history of our state. And if I go to the United States Senate, the first piece of legislation I'm going to propose is to eliminate sections 45Q and 45Z of the IRS tax code to get rid of this stream of money that's being used to facilitate the violation of our property rights. You know, the very reason we created government in the first place was to protect our rights, foremost of which was our property rights. And now the government is facilitating their violation, acting contrary to the very purpose for which it was created, because it's making elected officials, the donors, wealthier to help elected officials get reelected. They're more loyal to their donor base than they are to the people and to the oath they took to uphold the Constitution.
So is that 45Q and 45Z part connected, attached to eminent domain, or is it something separate?
It's separate. So it's actually the federal government and the state government here in Iowa kind of working together. So the tax credits are purely a creature of federal law. There's a part of the federal tax code that if you capture carbon dioxide and sequester it, the federal government will pay you $85 per metric ton. But then the same company that is seeking these tax credits has obtained the power of eminent domain from our state government. And gotcha. Now that company is going to be using eminent domain to build the pipeline.
Wait, so I'm sorry, Eric. I'm curious. Carbon dioxide is what gives soda fizz.
Correct.
So you're saying this? No, this particular form of carbon dioxide is not fit for human consumption, where they could turn that into an enterprise to sell the carbon dioxide to soda manufacturers across the nation and make some money?
Well, so here's actually where it gets even worse, because there's many of us believe that this carbon dioxide will never actually be sequestered. It's a lot more likely going to be used for fracking.
Yeah.
So this company is going to actually kind of double dip. They're going to get a tax credit from the federal government for capturing it, but then they'll be able to sell it to the oil companies to use for fracking. So there's another reason the environmentalist groups are opposed to it, is because they believe this will ultimately be used for fracking rather than to sequester it underground.
So, and this is kind of getting back into my favorite part of why I'm on this podcast, but the political strategy. What is Ashley Henson's stance on this, or is she concerned with it at all? And has she received any campaign funds from this gentleman you're talking about?
Yeah, Bruce Rastetter. No, we've documented it. We've campaigned on it. He's given her more than $39,000 in campaign donations. She tries to split the baby and is very disingenuous, and she's not fooling anyone. So she says she supports the tax credits, but she doesn't support the use of eminent domain in furtherance of this project. That, like I said, that's very disingenuous, because the only way this project works is if the company has the power of eminent domain. But she wants to have it both ways. She wants to keep her donors happy by saying she supports the tax credits, while trying not to offend Iowans by saying, "But I don't support the use of eminent domain." They go hand in hand.
Which of our other donors are getting those same tax credits? You know what I mean? How many other people are benefiting from the same carbon sequestration tax credit?
Yeah, there's ethanol plants that support it because it will. I think they're going to be able to sell their ethanol as having a reduced carbon footprint. Okay. So there's a financial incentive for the ethanol plants to get on board with this.
Gotcha.
But the average person on the street, we know from polling, everyday Iowans are 100% against this.
And this is a recommendation, or maybe you've already done this. Have you set up your county meet and greets at the houses of the people where this pipeline is going to be eminent domain and stolen from them? Have you reached out to those people along the pipeline and say, "Hey, I'm totally against this and I need your support, and the Republican isn't going to stop it, but I will"? Have you thought about
that's a great idea. I haven't had an event at anyone's home along this proposed route, but there are homeowners, landowners who are strongly supporting my campaign, one of whom hosted an event at a public library for me a few months back. So these are definitely a core part of my coalition that I'm building. Not just the landowners themselves, but anyone who cares about property rights. The Republicans and the Democrats will not defend our property rights. And as you probably know, ever since the Kelo decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, private companies, according to our Supreme Court, if they get the blessing from the government, can literally tear down your house if the government believes the private company can use your land better than you can. This is total violation of the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment. And yet no one in Congress does anything to stop it because it's enriching their donors.
So is that a federal law that you just mentioned, or state, or in conjunction
Federal Supreme Court case?
Yeah.
Sorry, about how I'll change things. So first, legislation's to kill the tax credits. The other thing that the American people and the people of Iowa need to know: many years ago, 20 years ago, I interned in the United States Senate. And I was shocked because I was taken to the Senate floor, and there was one person standing on the Senate floor talking to the television camera. And I was young and naive, and I asked the staffer who was giving me this tour, "Well, where are all the other senators?" And he said, "Well, you don't understand how it works here. There's never more than one person on the Senate floor. They just take turns talking to the camera. They're just essentially campaigning for re-election. And C-SPAN has agreed never to pan out to show that there's nobody else in the room." And I realized that this is all just a Hollywood production, that every single member of the Senate is complicit in defrauding us. I am the advisor for our elected officials here in Greene County. Our Board of Supervisors is our legislative body. There's 5 people who sit on the Board of Supervisors. I would never allow them to conduct business unless there were at least 3 supervisors present. It's a basic principle of law. You need a quorum before you can do business. But in the Senate, there's never more than 1 or 2 people in the room at a time. And the first thing I would do when I'm elected to the United States Senate, I'm going to go to the Senate floor and say, "I demand a quorum. C-SPAN, pan out, show that there's no one else here. We cannot be doing business unless there's at least 51 senators present." And the whole system collapses. they're all too busy right now meeting with their donors and lobbyists and interest groups. They're more concerned about their reelection than governing and abiding by their oaths of office and doing their duty. And it would just take one senator to demand a quorum. And it shows that every member of the Senate today is complicit in defrauding us because none of them demand a quorum.
That makes me disappointed in Rand Paul. I'm gonna tweet.
Yeah, that's who exactly my mind went to immediately.
Like, why isn't Rand Paul demanding a quorum every time he gets up there?
But I have to ask you this. That seems pretty obvious to me that we're no longer a republic. And a lot of Americans know this information, not to the extent what you just exposed, but they know when those people go to Washington, D.C., they're going to do what their party and what their donors and what the lobbyists tell them to do.
Yep.
How do libertarians get that message out that we are the anti-them party and without selling the fear that the duopoly sells to the American people?
Yeah, what I'm doing in my race is I've committed that I'm only going to serve one term. And that way, no one ever can question whether I'm doing something because it's right or because it's in my electoral self-interest. There'll never be a conflict for me because I'm not running for re-election. I'm going to serve 6 years. And I think that would be enough. If one person can do it, I think we would see a revolution in this country. The American people just need to be shown that it's possible. Right now, the two parties have propagated this myth that we only have two options on election day. And once we explode that myth, the libertarians will become the major party in the United States.
That's right, because I just read a study saying that particularly the younger generation, my kids' generation, are completely disenfranchised with both parties at this point.
Yeah.
And, I thought 2024 was the time to strike as far as the Libertarian Party goes, because initially nobody wanted Trump Biden. Nobody wanted either one of those. And then when Kamala jumped in, that was an even worse option for Americans. And people had to choose between diarrhea sandwich and a bowl of hot shit soup when you went to the polls. Excuse my French. I know Iowa people don't cuss that much. At least I haven't heard them cuss that much. But it was sad to me that we failed so magnificently, and I still blame Angela, sue me, but I do that. We didn't give legitimacy to our convention by inviting the other party. The other parties don't invite us to theirs to let our candidate speak. Why would you do that at ours? How much support are you getting from your state affiliate, and if national at all? I know national shared. Thank you to all those social media outlets that have shared this podcast tonight. But how much support are you getting?
Yeah, no, I've gotten a great deal of support from the Libertarian Party of Iowa. The chairwoman of our party has been a great supporter of mine, has helped me along the way, helped me meet people. The state party has been fantastic. I really haven't received any support from the national party, which has been disappointing because I think, I am the candidate the national party needs. And I would really hope that at some point I'm able to connect with them and tap into their resources and their network, because that would really give me a boost in this campaign.
Well, tonight, like I said, they've shared you on Facebook, and typically they share our program on X as well. Let me check real quick.
I don't know if they, yeah.
So yeah,
good.
you're getting some support from the national tonight, getting your face out there. And speaking of that, let's go back to this link right here, which is the donate link. And once again, on his donate page, it actually starts off at $10. Let's start there, but you could do a custom amount. So you got $3 in your pocket,
up to $3,500. Come on.
Yeah, and we'd appreciate if you did donate tonight. Post a comment so we can give you a shout out. show your fellow libertarians that we are out here trying to support great candidates. We have a successful libertarian candidate that's won 2 elections, has a feasible chance of winning this election that he's going for right now, but we need to get his face, his name, and his message out there to the people, the great people of Iowa. Like I said, I don't know. Well, you're a prosecutor. I'm pretty sure you ran into the jerks in Iowa that I never ran into, because I ran into free people and typically not criminals. But Iowa itself has given us some great Americans. So you can support my guy, Dr. Laehn, right here. What is that, German?
German, yeah. From Silesia, right on the Polish-German border.
Yeah. Our guy, Joe Hanush, says, thank you for running, Thomas.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Joe, thank you for getting us another great guest. You're doing a wonderful job. We truly appreciate you. Eric.
Yeah, I just want to give you this opportunity. If there's any pillars to your campaign that we haven't discussed yet, that's important to you, that people understand, especially maybe to the people of Iowa, the libertarians, and is there anything we haven't asked you that you'd like to talk about real quick?
Sure. Well, I'll say one thing, because something Marcus said a moment ago about us not being a republic anymore triggered a thought. You know, people ask me why I'm running for the Senate, and really, as I've reflected on why I'm running, the reason is because when I was elected county attorney, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution. And I believe that right now, at this time, the best way I can defend the United States Constitution is by running for the United States Senate as a libertarian. I think Iowans need to know how much is at stake in this election. The question on the ballot is whether or not we are going to keep our republic. And I'll give one very quick example, something that should have alarmed everyone across the country. This past summer, President Trump issued an executive order. This is symptomatic of a much deeper problem, that laws are being now made unilaterally by the president, and members of Congress are too busy campaigning for re-election than to legislate. But one executive order in particular, President Trump issued an executive order that purports to make it a crime to burn the American flag. And he said at his press conference when he signed this executive order, if you burn the American flag, you'll go to federal prison for 1 year, not 1 day more, not 1 day less, 1 year in prison for burning the American flag. Now, there are good, reasonable people in the United States, good Americans, who believe that it should be a crime to burn the American flag. There are good, reasonable Americans who believe that's a form of free expression protected by the First Amendment. I don't want to have that debate. All Americans should agree that the President of the United States does not have the authority to make criminal law by executive order. The President of the United States does not have the authority to criminalize our behavior and say, I'm giving this order, and if you disobey it, I'm sending you to federal prison for a year. That is not the United States you and I grew up in. That's Stalinist Russia. Presidents do not have the authority, do not have the power under our Constitution to make criminal laws and to take away our liberty for violating them. And yet there's silence in Congress. Right. So this is what is at stake. You know, are we a republic or are we some form of monarchy? I fear that already today we're more akin to an elective monarchy than we are to a republic. And if we don't act soon, it's going to be too late.
That spurred a question that I have for you. What are your feelings on qualified immunity?
Well, that's a great question, and these issues come up under Iowa law. Anytime there's an officer involved shooting in Greene County, I have to issue an opinion on whether or not it was justified or not. And we see this in Minnesota now. You know, I think that law enforcement officers have some immunity under the law, and they need to, because in the heat of the moment, people can make honest mistakes. But everyone, whether a law enforcement officer or not, lives under the law. And no one is immune from prosecution. And so although I believe that there is some limited form of immunity that law enforcement officers need to have, at the end of the day, everyone is under the law and must abide by the law. I would also differentiate between what happens at the federal level and what happens at the state and local level. Right? There should be no federal criminal laws, or maybe, I guess if you blow up a post office, right? If it's a direct attack on the federal government has the power to criminalize that behavior. But the vast majority of federal criminal law is unconstitutional. The federal government was not meant to have the power, let alone the president. The whole government wasn't meant to have the power to criminalize behavior. Law enforcement should be a matter of state and local jurisdiction. And what's going on in Minnesota and across the country, where federal agents are enforcing the law, is contrary to the whole tradition and purpose of our Constitution.
All right.
I would
Eric,
just add, like,
go ahead real quick.
The only caveat to the need for federal laws is if a violent crime or something crosses state lines. You know what I mean? It's the same case. But I'm sure you, as an attorney, know more about that than me. But that's an argument people have had with me whenever, me as the extremist would be like, the extreme libertarian would be like, abolish the FBI. And people who are like, well, then who would prosecute or not prosecute, investigate, laws that cross state lines? I said U.S. Marshals, right? Like the U.S. Marshals did it before the FBI was founded. So, and even then, like, the federal government has gotten way too big. I don't know. Sorry, that was kind of off the cuff. I was just thinking about that as you were saying it. Like, what's the need for federal prosecution? That's the only examples I could really come up with.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Laehn, before you get into that, I have a fastball down the middle for you comment.
Okay.
Because I did a little research, and can you see the comments? Can you see what Earl Kozak?
Yeah.
says?
I guess he doesn't know your history.
Yeah. Earl, you should have went to the website. Go ahead, Dr. Laehn.
Yeah, no, Google me. Google my name and COVID, and you'll see that I was on the major news stations saying that the vaccine mandate was unconstitutional and that I would resign from office before I would enforce it. And I was the lone voice. There wasn't another county attorney in the state who was willing to join me when I was saying that. And then thankfully, the Supreme Court, first the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and then the U.S. Supreme Court agreed. But no, I had this same energy fighting that vaccine mandate. And I made it very clear that I wasn't going to enforce it. And then if I was going to expose my county to liability, if OSHA or the Biden administration was going to come after Greene County, then I would resign before I would enforce what I believe to be an unconstitutional law. And that at the end of the day, that's the only way we save our republic, is if all of us are reading and interpreting the Constitution. We do not owe blind obedience to any government official, including the Supreme Court. And that's why one thing I'll say, because I know we're running out of time, but I am probably the only prosecutor in America who believes in jury nullification. Right? Yeah. Juries have a duty to enforce the Constitution, and if they believe a criminal law is unconstitutional, then they should find the person not guilty. Not because the person didn't commit the act, but because the law under which they're being prosecuted is unconstitutional. Now, the jury is the greatest safeguard to our liberty before any other institution in our system of government. And we all have that same responsibility as citizens and potential jurors to know the Constitution and to stand up against our own government when they try to violate it.
Word.
Awesome.
Eric, you have any closing questions or remarks?
Hey, Dr. Laehn, thanks for coming on the podcast. This was a real honor. My message is for the people watching this podcast. Like we always say, put your money where your memes are. This is already an elected libertarian in a partisan race. People know him by name in Iowa and Greene County. He's obviously viable. He believes in the Constitution, believes in liberty, believes in freedom, wants limited government. Let's do what we can, whatever you can, to help get this guy to raise the $40,000 2-week-long money bomb. We're getting that money, and we're going to use it for good here. We're going to get Dr. Laehn elected to the U.S. Senate. Imagine that. Breaking news all over the Hill, C-SPAN, CNN, Fox News, whatever the other ones on Newsmax, all your streaming platforms. Tucker Carlson be talking about it. We might be able to get you on there before then, not us. Somebody might be able to get you on there. But I'm just saying, Libertarian wins the U.S. Senate. Let's do everything we can to see that this happens.
I guarantee you, if that happens, if I win, and I plan to win, within 4 years, we would control the Congress. Because once people realize it's possible, they would realize they're in the majority, and libertarians would win up and down the ballot all across the country.
Awesome.
Let's go.
I'm going to let Earl get my last question on the night, because this is one that's near and dear to my heart. What is your 2A position? Again, I don't know your position on that. He was the one with the earlier COVID question, but on the 2A, how do you stand? I think this is another fastball down the middle.
It is a fastball down the middle. I believe in gun rights. I believe that the Second Amendment is just as important as any other amendment in our Bill of Rights. And I think ultimately, I believe that the Second Amendment doesn't just guarantee us the right to defend ourselves against other individuals who might wish us harm. It was ultimately meant to give the people the ability to defend themselves against their own government.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the guarantors of the entire Bill of Rights. Just like the jury is an institution that makes sure the government can't invade our rights, so too the Second Amendment. I'll mention, I have a book coming out. I have a book that I've written that's going to be published, coming out later this year. And part of the genius of the American constitutional system, this is the argument in my book, is that our founding fathers wanted to leave us the means, the mechanisms to have revolutions without having to resort to our guns. Right? Jury nullification, voting, the amendment process. These were all methods by which we, the people, could take back our government and have what I call peaceable revolutions, that we could overthrow the government through the amendment process or through jury nullification without having to resort to our guns and our pitchforks. But a backstop to that, at the end of the day, we have the Second Amendment.
There you go.
Amen.
I love it.
Yeah. That's how I feel, because my FBI handlers heard me say this several times, but I think the politicians in our government should do their jobs like their life depends on it. I'm not advocating for violence against anybody, but if it's tyranny they bring, it's revolution we have the right to recover. And with that being said, let's let the people know how they can find you and communicate. Again, we put up the donate link, but your social media, all that great stuff, let them know how they can learn more about you.
Yeah, you can find me on X, you can find me on Facebook, or you can visit my website. I'm available. I have a great team that's working for me, that's helping me get my message out on social media. You can find me, like I said, X, Facebook, or visit my website. I would be grateful for everyone's support.
Right on. And once again, this is Dr. Thomas Laehn from the great state of Iowa. Thank you very much for coming on the Black Powder podcast.
Yeah,
Eric,
thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed our time tonight.
Awesome. Eric, thank you very much. Dr. Laehn will ask you to hold on over the next 58 seconds of the outro video so we could chop it up for a minute on some other building stuff, because you brought up some points that I think we may be able to collaborate on at a later date. With that being said, this has been the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast out there. We want to thank all of you who watched and listened tonight. And as we always say when we end our podcast, live free
or die.
This is the Black Powder Podcast, coming at you live and direct. Your salty tears season my life. It's the Black Powder Podcast.